Take a little bit different perception. Do we look better? A little bit different. Actually, it looks it's kind of cool being able to see you all at one time. Actually, there's a pretty good advantage. Down
there. Selective. My dad is
Fox, Warriors,
standing alone.
What happens when you show up late?
out on the Buffalo. 4 or 5 days ago.
Really?
Yeah.
Just hiking.
We floated, one day and did a lot of hiking.
If you can go get them the next door, you've got a key to the room. How many more do we have? A couple more. Here you go. You got a key. Yes, you do. This is a test. You can do that.
Oh, yeah.
Wait till he gets his chair. Might over here on this side. Accidentally. Hey, there's a few more chairs in here to sit. Okay, it's 7 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Willow Springs Board of Education to order. I will be acting as president until such time that a president is elected by this Board of Education, since this is our organizational meeting of the year. And I think we have all these folks that came out to see Mr. Foster get sworn in today, so that's really good stuff. So, all right, first of all, introduction of guests. Since we have quite a few folks who normally are not here, what I'd like to do is just go around the room and have you introduce yourself. That way we have it for the record, and maybe you can get your name down. We'll just start right over here, just kind of go through the room, and then we'll end up over here. So.
Okay. My name is Snigdha Half. It's S-N-I-G-D-H-A.
Okay.
And Half.
My name is Michael Half.
John Singleton.
Jordan Singleton.
Barry Newman.
Audrey Foster, Dawn Newberry,
Anita Ellis.
Debbie Bryan, Marcia Levin.
David Lovin.
Tina Spencer.
The next 4 are regulars, so.
Ryan Barker.
Bobby Cottingham, Marty Spence, Chris Rogers,
Janet Newman. Bree Levin. Jennifer Owens. Beverly Hicks. Dee Dee Stolba.
Jeff Lovin.
Gary Stolman, Glenn Moore.
And Officer Moore, you're becoming a regular, seems like it, so. Okay, thank you very, very much, and could you introduce yourself? I just walked in, my God. This is what I get for coming in last. All right,
Over there by the officer.
we have another seat just for you. All right. Okay then, and welcome everyone. It's great to have you here this evening. We do have an agenda before us, and we'll be working through that agenda once we have a newly elected president and vice president. However, before we do that, we have a new board member. And the first order of business is for our new board member to be sworn in as being duly elected, and is also by statute required to take the oath. So with that, I'll have our board secretary who's going to stand over by the wheel. Scott.
Why not?
Yeah.
I have to swear them all in.
I thought you just swore the
No, the
new
new
one.
one.
Oh, the ones that were on, that's
Everybody.
right, so Mac, you have to go too, that's exactly right.
Hey, don't
We're
forget
swearing in
that.
two of them. So Mac, you're an old hat at this anyway, so. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm gonna stand behind. All right, you guys raise your right hand. Do you swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Missouri, and that you will faithfully and impartially discharge the duties of school director in and for the Willow Springs School District for the best of your ability according to law?
I will.
All right, congratulations.
Good, congratulations. Mac, it's great to have you back on the board. And Scott, it's great to have you on the board, so welcome. So, okay, our next order of business is then for the board to reorganize, and the first order of business is for the election of the president. The president carries the function of operating, facilitating all board meetings throughout the next year, beginning now until next April. The way we're gonna do this, last year it seemed like it was a bit awkward, but I'm gonna ask for nominations. And then if there's no more nominations, I'll have a motion to nomination cease, and then we'll individually vote on each nomination. All right, have a motion to approve person A, the second, vote on it, and we'll do that until we have a president elected. After we do that, then I'll move on to the vice president, do the same thing. And then once we have both a vice president and a president duly elected by this Board of Education, then I'll turn over this seat to the board, I'll resume my seat, and then we'll start conducting the business of the board. So any questions about how that works? All right. At this time then, I would accept any nominations for president of the Willow Springs Board of Education.
Nominate Tony Friga.
Okay, we have a nomination for Tony Friga. Do we have any other nominations to come before the board for president? If not, then I would entertain a motion to cease nominations.
So many.
I have a motion to cease nominations by Matt Gum. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second by Adam Webb to cease nominations. All those in favor to cease nominations say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Abstain. Tony Friga has abstained on that. Nobody has abstained. Now we'll take a motion to actually vote for the president. We have one nomination before the board. Do I have a motion that Tony Friga be elected as board president?
So moved.
We have a motion from Dean A. that Tony Friga be elected as board president. Do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second from Adam Webb that Tony Friga be elected board president. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Let it note that Tony Friga abstained to vote on that record. So Tony, congratulations. You're the board president for another year. So, and it's great to have your leadership. Thank you very much for that. Okay, next in line then, we need to vote, the board needs to elect a vice president. So do I have a nomination for vice president of the Board of Education?
Matt Gum.
We have a nomination for Matt Gum to be vice president of the Board of Education. Do we have any seconds?
Second.
We have a second from Matt. Do we have any other nominations? I'm sorry, I kind of messed that up. Any other nominations besides Matt? Okay, do I have a motion for nominations to cease?
So moved.
I have a motion nomination for cease from DNA. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Brent Colley to cease all nominations, so let's go ahead and vote on the candidate. Do I have a motion that Matt Gum be elected as vice president?
So moved.
Do I have a motion from DNA that Matt Gum be elected vice president? Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a second from Adam Webb. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Let the record show that Matt Gum abstained from voting. Tony, congratulations as president. Matt, congratulations as vice president, and I will yield my chair. I'll leave that water for you. Thank you all. I appreciate it. I'll be thankful for your confidence in me. I'll do the best job that I can. You all help keep me straight. Mandy too. So I'm not going to be near as efficient as Bill was, but we need to elect a secretary. Is that correct? Actually, we can do that in July. We don't have to do it at this meeting. You can do the board by July 15th has to have both the board secretary and the treasurer. So I'll come back to the board at that time.
Okay, that's fine.
I think we all know who's going to be, and that's okay. So,
It's okay if you have other
no, that's
options.
okay. I'll come back to you in July, and I'll make sure that we have a duly elected board secretary.
Get rid of the month of hope.
There you go.
All right, well then we'll move on to the consent agenda items. We've got a, do what? Oh, so you want to go ahead and do that? Do we have to have an MSBA delegate today?
We did it this time last year.
Yeah.
Go ahead and do
Okay.
that.
We
Go
did
ahead and do
all
that.
I would take nominations for an MSBA delegate.
Did you like it last year, Dean? That's going to be a change.
Not especially.
It'll be us, next year will be different. Okay. What I missed?
Nothing.
It was not an issue last year because they were closed for
Yeah.
business.
I nominate Matt Hobson as MSBA delegate.
Second.
Are there any other nominations for MSBA delegate? I'd ask for a motion to cease all nominations.
So moved.
And I got a second by Matt Gum. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
And opposed?
And if the board would like to go ahead and appoint those other ones, you can, because they're not gonna change.
Right.
So you might as well, if you want to do the board secretary, custodian, records, and treasurer, that's fine.
I thought we determined, let's wait on that, because I think we determined we are not supposed to appoint a treasurer.
Well, the treasurer, I think we already made that change last year.
Okay, so it will stay.
So Jamie, yeah, Jamie will be the treasurer, and Mandy will be the board secretary.
Okay.
And I'll be the custodial of records.
Okay, so I would receive.
I would make those motions.
Okay, very good.
What I just said.
Are there any other nominations? I would ask for nomination, for a motion to cease all nominations
So,
by Adam, and a second. By Coach Kelly. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
And opposed? Very good. I think everybody's in place. I've got a consent agenda in front of us. Are there any changes to that agenda?
No changes.
I would receive a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
By Dean, and a second.
Second.
By Mac. Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Very good. Administrative reports. Marty, you know the drill.
All right, it's gonna be a little bit longer than normal, and I know we've got a lot of people, and you guys have a long agenda, but we've got a lot of kids that have done some really good things in the last month, and I wanna make sure that we get their name out there, so I'll read pretty quick, but I do wanna get some, show some love to our students that are doing big things. You've got the numbers, so I won't go over those. And we forgot how busy the fourth quarter can be, and we've been doing a lot of things in the last month. So just want to kind of hit some highlights and again, put some focus on some kids, read their names that are doing really great things for our district. FBLA, Future Business Leaders of America, we had lots of district winners and state qualifiers. In fact, over half of the FBLA members qualified for state. And their winnings: advertising, Ben Clarkston was first. Agribusiness, Ashley Kelly took third. Business communication, Karina Krivichenko took third. Business plan team, Lily Leah and Allie Martin were first. Healthcare administration, Ashley Kelly was second. Hospitality and event management, Mackenzie George, Autumn Hogan, and Maggie Gray first. Insurance and risk management, Cheyenne Miller first and Caitlin McNew third. Marketing team, Linnea Fike and Cheyenne Miller second. Organizational leadership, Karina Krivichenko was second and Caitlin Zimmerman was third. Personal finance, Ben Ivins third. Sales presentation team, Ben Clarkson and Martin Leah first. Sports and entertainment management team, Chloe Chapin, Liz Sheehan, and Alyssa Von Allman second. And again, that over half of our members qualified for state. They're having a big event tomorrow where they'll find out the winners of state. So congratulations to Coach Lee and our FBLA team. FCCLA is our future career and consumer leaders of America. 3 regional officers that Willow Springs has. Stacy Johnson is the devotion leader, Ashlyn Jones is recreation leader, and Sierra Deckard is historian. So that's an honor for those 3 ladies. And then we also had Star Event State winners. These girls all took, and boys, took winnings in state. Kendall Segrist and Taylor Reese received a top score and a silver medal in a chapter service display. They had a nursing home pen pal project that you might have seen on Facebook. They're going to nationals at Nashville this summer for that project, so they did really well. Ashlyn Jones, Brenna Barnes, and Haley Sigmund received a bronze medal in event management for the homecoming dance. Justin Cheney, Logan Crane, and Caleb Ward, bronze medal in entrepreneurship for their Bearware Vinyl business plan. Alex McDonough, bronze medal in event management for the Fax Pie fundraiser. And Haley Crane and Isabella Davis, bronze medal in Focus on Children for their Tea Party and Dining Etiquette event that they did with first grade. Mackenzie Wilbanks and Evelyn Carmichael, bronze medal in chapter service portfolio for their baking for the nursing home. And Riley Scarborough, Stacy Johnson, and Sierra Deckard, bronze medal in chapter service portfolio. They did the Pink Out game. So our FCCLA students did a really nice job, and just want to make sure we get those names in there for you. Our choir students, we had 4 students receive District Honor Choir honors: Emily Gray, Donovan Owens, Jeffrey Reinman, and Dylan Gearhart. And then we had choir students receive state silver medals: Alyssa Cunningham, Cassidy Andrews, and Jeffrey Reinman. And also state silver medals, Cassidy Andrews and Ashley McGuire's mixed ensembles. Our band hosted a contest a couple of weeks ago here at Willow, a small bands festival, where a lot of the small schools sent their bands for a rating, and got some clinical time with some technicians from Missouri State, and our band received an exemplary rating for that, which is the highest you can get. So our music groups are doing well. FFA is extremely busy right now, and they received their contest ratings for district, Group 1 contest ratings. So apparently Group 1 is the highest you can get, and they change that from time to time on FFA. But Ag Mechanics, Ben Ivins, Colton Wood, Dakota Mayberry, and Quentin Smith all received high marks. Soils, Philip Stewart, Easton Cruz, Dakota Smith, and Harley Biddick. Forestry, Ashley Kelly, Braden Wilbanks, Cameron Wagner, and Chase Grogan. And Floriculture, Emma Weaver, Gabby Gunter, Linnea Fike, and Olivia Wood. So great job by all those teams. And then high individuals, this was a district with 55 other schools, and we had the #1 Ag Mechanic in Ben Ivins. Colton Wood took second in Ag Mechanic. Philip Stewart took second in Soils. So an excellent showing by those three young men. And then we had a state proficiency, Colton Wood in food service. State degrees, we had 2 of those, Ben Ivins and Colton Wood. And then the American degree, which is the highest honor in FFA, Bryce Friga and Katie Rothermick, both 2020 graduates, received their American degree this year. So excellent job by our FFA. And then just some other highlights. Again, it's been super busy, as you can see. We had a gentleman from the branch of the retired military come in and present Coach Vince McCroskey with a Military Educator Award this quarter. Our juniors took the ACT and WorkKeys test, and then our sophomores took the pre-ACT test, so a big testing window when we're now in the EOC portion of our testing window. Saturday night was our Chamber of Commerce banquet, and Ben Clarkston, our senior, took Youth of the Year. And Ben if you were there, did an excellent speech for his reception of that award, and very deserving. We had our first Bear Day. We had a lot of our rural schools wanting to come and tour our schools, so we opened that up to our rural schools, and they came in for Bear Day, and we were able to show them around campus and give them a rundown of what they can experience as a bear and some of the programs we have to offer. And we had a little over 20 students come in on Bear Day. And then in sports track, we had the Willow Relays. Boys took second, losing only to West Plains, so excellent job by the boys. Girls took third. And then Daniel Fursoff medaled in hurdles at Hillcrest, and that is a meet that you can't even get into it unless you've got a certain pedigree. And Coach Wagner, we just had a handful of kids ever medal in that meet, so nice job by Daniel. In baseball, we've got a brand new field. I'm sure you've seen that down at Booster. It's just a great cooperation between the city and the community, really, and thanks to Matt Foster and many other people in the city and some community donations, and the field that just looks completely different down there, and I know the boys appreciate playing on it. Our golf team has already been winning tournaments, and our tennis team has won the Forsyth tournament and the Lebanon tournament, so doing very well. Coming up, like I said, we're in the middle of EOC testing now. We have prom coming up, April 24th. That's a little less than 2 weeks from now. Will be a big Cedar for prom, and then Incredible Pizza for Project Prom. Senior Project Night is April 29th, the last Thursday in April, and since we've got such a big crowd, I know many of you have judged senior projects in the past. We need your help again. Mrs. Wilson is low on numbers of judges, so if you can judge, reach out to me or her or anybody in the high school, and we can get you a spot, and you can come up and see some amazing senior projects. One of my favorite nights of the year, and I'd certainly encourage everybody to come out for that. Senior trip will be May 5th. We're going to Branson for the day. And then graduation will be May 7th at 6 in the gym. And of course, we'd like to see you all at graduation as well. Is that enough?
What do you do in your spare time? Any questions for Marty? Thanks, Marty.
Thanks for indulging me with the names. Just wanted to get those kids some recognition.
You bet.
Did a good job.
Tina, what's going on in your building?
Oh, we have lots of things going on in the middle school. We are neck deep in spring sports. We're playing some baseball and some softball and running some track. And track is a new experience for me because I was always neck deep in senior projects this time of year, and I never went to the track meets. And then last year, of course, we didn't have track because school wasn't open. So that has been just the coolest thing to get involved with that. Paisley Crudgington has been pulling first in hurdles in every meet, and if you've never seen Haley Jade Unruh run or Carson Smith run, you need to come see them run. They run really fast for a really long time. It's amazing. So I'm having a really good time with track. But they're really long, but I'll warn you that ahead of time. If you look at my numbers are down a little bit in my building. They're lower than they've been this year. We've had a lot of kids moving in and out. Obviously more moving out than moving in, and I don't know, there doesn't seem to be a rhyme or a reason for that. It just kind of fluctuates on a week-to-week basis. But I would like for you to look at those March 100% attendance numbers. Over a fourth of my building has 100% attendance at this point in the year, and that to me is pretty amazing. So 128 middle school students with 100% attendance in the middle of April is something to kind of be proud of, I think. So,
Now, would that count, Dr. Spencer, those kids who were quarantined, they were quarantined because of COVID or something like that?
yes, because if they haven't missed any other days, if you get quarantined, we put you on homebound and you're not
Right.
counted absent
You're
because
still
we're still
considered
providing
attendance,
instruction.
correct.
Right.
Okay.
We had the Art Around Town art show. We sent 8 out of the middle school, 8 art projects. There were 10 districts participating in that in West Plains at the Civic Center, and it was a K-8 art show. 2 of ours brought home medals. That was Hallie Guffey brought home a first place, and Adele Karatanova brought home a third, so we were really proud of them. I didn't get our Character Strong Student of the Month on here because I think we hadn't drawn it yet, but Neely Gilbert got the gift certificate from Terry Newton for Character Strong Student of the Month. We are scheduling for next year, and we are adding some new electives. We reevaluate what we do every year and see what's working and what's not and what students are interested in taking. We are adding another offering to our STEM lab, green architecture. And if you've ever watched Chip and Joanna, their show where they have the computer program and they do their designs on the computer, that's what these students will be, they'll be learning to use that program, and they'll be doing some architecture, and it looks like a pretty cool offering. So we're also adding some math support classes in 5, 6, and 7 to see if we can kind of fill some holes in our math curriculum, but they're going to be kind of fun electives where math is painless and you don't even know you're learning something. So we're going to try it and see how it works. Tomorrow we actually start Algebra 1 testing with our 8th graders. We do that tomorrow and Wednesday, and then on April 20th we start our grade level testing, and we have about 2.5 weeks of that. We completed our last round of iReady testing, and I'll have those reports for you next month. We had a little contest to see who could make the biggest increase from their last test by grade level. 6th grade won the math part. They increased the most in math, and 7th grade won reading. So it's amazing what you'll do for a popsicle and a few minutes of extra recess. So we'll have some rewards for them. We were in here, Mr. Hall was kind of cleaning up after us a little bit when he came in, but we were in here for working with our Missouri Model District consultants on common formative assessments. I had all of my core area grade level teachers in here for a half a day over a 2-day period, and they did a really good job with that. They came out saying that was really worthwhile. It really makes you think about the standards and designing your assessments backward and what students really need to know, and I think it was a really good experience for them. I was glad to hear that. A couple things that weren't on here. We had the Educator of the Year in our building this year. Sherry Owens got the Chamber of Commerce Educator of the Year. I would also like to say congratulations to my colleague who did not brag on himself. Dr. Spence got Citizen of the Year from the Chamber. So,
Well, was that community spirit?
or was it community spirit? Okay, I'm sorry.
Come
I'm
on.
sorry.
Don't
Community
elevate him
spirit.
too high now.
Right.
Come on.
Sorry. He's not the best citizen. He's not the most. I should know better. So we were really proud of Mrs. Owens. Of course, we hate to lose her to retirement this year. We also had a universal gifted screening in our 5th grade where we screened all of our students. Mrs. Hobson pointed out that we have a lot of students that she had never seen in elementary because we do have a lot of movement in our building, students moving in and out. So we just ran a universal screening on them, and that will help her to identify any students that we didn't get identified in elementary school or who have moved into the district. And on the 19th, which is a week from tonight, we have 5th grade parents coming in if they're interested in band. Mr. Cochran's going to run a little informational session down in the band room that night and let them know what they need to do to get their students enrolled in band. So make that part of our scheduling. That's all I got.
All right, any questions? Thank you. Bobby?
All right, the elementary will be a little more lightweight than those two, but we are glad to be in school in the 4th quarter, and a lot of these teachers here can attest that it's fast and furious, and 3rd and 4th grade are preparing for MAP testing. The first week of May, we got field trips coming up, and we're excited to be able to take those field trips because we've shut down a lot of things this year. A couple of those trips I would like to focus on are local, and building community partnerships is really good, and in the high school, middle school, CTE is a big focus, and we're kind of giving our 3rd and 4th graders a little taste of that. The 4th grade this Friday will go to Kelly Hines Farm and watch them plant corn, and then our 3rd grade is still in the works. We haven't come down with a date yet, but they're gonna go to Bear Crossing, the new truck wash in town, and they're gonna host us, and I think if it works out, they're gonna wash the bus that we drive down in. So that will be cool.
Preferably with the kids not on the bus.
Probably not the whole fleet, Mr. Hall, but they are gonna wash the bus and take the kids on a tour of this new facility in Willow. And yeah, we're just glad to be in school 4th quarter. In some ways it has gone so fast, other ways it seemed like forever ago when we were shut down making copies and handing out lunches in the drive-through. But I just say I'm proud of all my teachers in the building. They've made this as normal as it possibly could be for our elementary students. And one thing I did catch a little bit of the board planning session, and right at the tail end, and there was a question about the learning loss and how it's been impacted with 4th quarter shutdown and how we might be addressing it in summer school. Typically we have 3 classrooms per grade level in the elementary and summer school, and we're dedicating one of those classrooms to those kids that may be a grade level or more behind, and our interventionist will be focused on those student needs. A couple of these ladies here will be teaching those classes, and they will teach the kids they had this year. So while, for example, Miss Ellis is a 2nd grade interventionist, she's going to be teaching a 3rd grade summer school class with those struggling students. And she's had them all year. She knows their strengths, their weaknesses, and we're going to try to close that gap. They will still go to the pool and do other things that other classrooms are doing. Just their academic time will be extremely focused, and maybe instead of learning about moon phases with Oreo cookies, they're going to be digging into math concepts and reading concepts. So just thought I'd throw that out there.
Very good. Any questions for Bobby? All right, thank you. Marlena?
Special ed this time of year is frantically finishing up evaluations that we've been in process for the past few days. We're hoping to have all those wrapped up by the end of the year. I think we still have, close to 30 in process. We did submit our corrective action samples and evidence of corrective action that was due by the 1st of April, and we received the results of that back, that we are now 100% in compliance. We had to submit 25 files for review again, and we were 100% in compliance on the file samples that we did submit, so that was really good. And good effort on our department on corrections that need to be made from the year. That's kind of where we're at right now. We do have some changes, proposed state plan changes that have been introduced, and Desi's been taking public comment on the proposed state plan changes. They're proposing changing new eligibility criteria. One of them for intellectual disability, on a requirement, on an additional assessment, requiring observation for other health impairment students, just a few things like that. And then nothing definite yet as far as how they're going to be implemented, but at the beginning of the year, and I know I talked to you guys about that, every student IEP at the beginning of the year had to be amended or rewritten to address what would happen if there was a school closure, to ensure that there was continual special ed instruction. And so most IEPs have been written at least twice this year for all of our students because of that. And we found out on Friday that that will be going away because AMI X will no longer be an option for school districts, and so we will not have to address those plans for our student IEPs, which will be a relief on one little hinge of paperwork side for our special ed teachers for next year. So.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Very well, we'll move on. Items for information. Where did he go? Glenn?
Yeah.
There he is. Officer Moore, you want to talk, you or Bill, who's talking about the
Officer Moore will be presenting information.
suicide survey results?
Okay, this was part of a senior project. Every year I have different students that come and request different ideas for senior projects, and I always have a handful of things that are on the back burner that we'd really like to accomplish.
Glenn, can you stand up? Can't see you behind.
They didn't have to stand up. They want to see that. When this was one that we talked about for a while, they have an existing program called Signs of Suicide, where you send out a survey to the students to provide general awareness of what the issues might be in your particular school or your buildings, and then follow up on it accordingly with those that might be acute or express a need. And we didn't do that at the time because it was a bit prohibitive, because what they offered was you'd have to pay, which wasn't really the problem, but they had a data collection module that was attached to it, and we knew it'd be difficult for us to follow up with that. So what we looked at was developing our own. So we took and stole the Signs of Suicide model and then incorporated it with a suicide screening tool that our community mental health provider, as well as that we had adopted, so it's kind of universal for the area. So we use that as a screening tool, and RJ Melvin was the student that opted to do this. He was going to be here tonight, but he unfortunately lost another friend to suicide today, so I told him to please not come. But he had a strong desire to kind of do something, and I thought this was a good application of it. So what we did was we took the suicide screening tool, put it into a Google form, and then scored it so it would automatically triage, and then we would have extra mental health providers from the area and from the school kind of freed up so that we could kind of capture the kids that might be acute or have an immediate need. And that was a couple weeks ago. So we did the survey, and one thing that really surprised us and the community mental health providers is they had done these in other schools, but the outcome with ours was substantially greater. Now, it isn't a reflection on a greater risk of suicidality at our school. We are within the national average. National average is, depending on the metric that you look at, it's been periodically going up over the last many years, and there's a lot of correlations that people point to, but it's not a recent thing, it's just been steadily rising. So what our numbers showed was within that, but what surprised us was how many kids opted to provide their name. We thought that they would remain anonymous, or they wouldn't complete the survey because it was voluntary. It said on the survey too that your parents would be contacted if you are in the acute realm, and still they did. And what we found from kind of the qualitative follow-up that we did was that the students, a lot of them did it because it was attached to a senior project. So, when you get a survey that the school pushes out, there's, not always the most enthusiasm to jump on that. But that was something that we hadn't anticipated, but because of RJ's name attached to it, it did a tremendous amount of good. So, really proud of him for that. And that consequence ended up with, we had over 40 students who expressed some type of suicidal ideation, most of those within the last month. So it turned out with those that were anonymous and those that were, it was 20% had expressed some type of suicidal ideation. And that's lifetime, but most of those, again, were about a month, within the last month. So, and again, that's in line, unfortunately, with the national average. So you always hear that the risk or the incidence of depression, anxiety, suicidal ideation within school settings or among adolescents in general. But this is the first time we've ever had quantitative data to kind of support that and see where we're at as a school. So we had a lot of follow-up that we did, contacting parents and also, of course, following up with the students themselves. Then the next slide, if you could go on to that one.
Hey, Glenn, of
Yeah.
those 45 students who you identified, how many of those were you able to identify the actual student?
Almost 100%.
Really?
There were only a few that we couldn't, that either remained anonymous or put a vague name. So it was almost all of them. There were a few, but then there were also a good number of students that we regularly work with that have suicidal ideation, and their names weren't on there. And I think they did that on purpose because they're kind of regular kids that we talk to. So, and our participation in this was over 220 filled it out of roughly 400. So not everyone filled it out, of course, about half, but still it was a pretty surprising amount. This next slide, also kind of frightening, was these are two questions that are the last question on the survey. And in the past 3 months, have you done anything, started to do anything, or prepared to do anything to end your life? And this is usually, if you study suicidal ideation, how the progression that you get. In that continuum, a lot of kids, a lot of adults, they may have suicidal ideation at any given time, but a lot of people manage it, and they're able to work through it. They have good supports, things like that, or it's a fleeting thought that comes on because of a series of events or things that are happening in their life. However, some kids, they get to that higher level, or some adults too, and this is where we get, a little, we put more services in place. So on the bar graph on the right, it says, how many of you ever done anything? So if they're actually doing something to enact that suicide, that's when one of the really frightening times we really have to act. And there again, it was close to 20%. So that's in lifetime. But what we really wanted with this was to get kids help that hadn't gotten help before, kind of identify them and initiate them to the services that can be beneficial to them. And we had some that probably within that day or 2 days, this was like their day where they were really acute. So, just kind of meant to be in that sense. And then others that were, they just never been identified. They may have told like a girlfriend or boyfriend, but they've never talked to anyone other than no family or anything. So the follow-up phone calls when we're calling the parents, we've got a lot of gratitude from the parents, a lot of shock too, but kind of working them through the different resources that are available and trying to put that in place. What we attached to this too were some of the questions from the Signs of Suicide survey, our depression inventory questions, just meaning they help gauge some of those pre-suicidal ideation behaviors or indications, like less energy lately, or inability to sleep, or some things like that. So we attached some of those, and I think we have about 50 of those that scored in those. So they didn't necessarily express that they had suicidal ideation, but they expressed a need, they might need just a little extra. So we actually still have to follow up on that. But we have some plans in place that we can do a steady follow-up, initiate conversations, and kind of see where those students are, and then just kind of get them on the right track as best we can, and continually monitor as best we can too. So it was an eye-opening process for how much participation we got. We strongly want to do this annually at the beginning of the school year, and also attach it to a senior project again. To help with the buy-in from the students. I think it's invaluable, and just a really good process. So, I'm really proud of RJ for initiating this and wanting to do something, and I think it's made a big difference. And today was a horrible day, and I saw a lot of good from this. So I saw a lot of kids that came to us, but they came in groups, they came supporting each other, and they came doing the things that they needed to do to get them through a difficult time. So that was a bright spot, and I think that's where we get from this. Any questions?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, what's the process for a kid that is struggling? How do they approach somebody at the school, for us that don't know or may not know, listening?
So what we try and do is weekly we meet and we try and we have a behavioral risk assessment team that we used to call threat assessment, but it encompasses a lot more. I kind of talked about that.
Mm-hmm.
But in that, we look for and try and identify across the different buildings through the different people that are involved in that, any students that are involved in any type of adverse childhood events or childhood trauma, or just having anything bad because a kid, you know, like if they have a breakup, to us that might be nothing, but to them that's our world. So we kind of identify some of those, or, you know, death in the family, recent divorce, any of those things, bullying. And then we try and get an informal support person to kind of generate conversation with them, just check in with them. Some of them they already get along with. And we do that, like today, a lot of the students came to me, a lot of them came to Coach Carter, a lot of them came to Miss Seiler, we brought her in today. So we had all these people that were there for supports, but we don't limit it to that. So if we have someone that wants to talk to anyone, I don't care if it's a cafeteria worker or it's a teacher or whatever, their old middle school teacher, we bring them to them. And we try and get a sub, someone that can come in and cover, and just anyone that they can have a rapport with. And a lot of times it's just that, you know, process of dialogue. But so the students, we try and make ourselves accessible and just initiate dialogue early, before we see some type of struggle. But then also usually what we have is their friends will push them over to me or someone else, and then we'll start those conversations. And then we determine kind of triage, and if we need to do the screening survey, we'll do it. And then if we need advanced care, we'll do that. Provide them with the different services. And then a lot of them, it's kind of, we have a spreadsheet we had to make, because we did see that increase way before this with just depression, anxiety, and suicidal ideation. So we actually had to make a tracking tool so that our follow-up would be consistent. So we try and follow up with them and contact them and, you know, make phone calls. So that's what I was doing right before here, was doing some visits and phone calls and stuff, and just trying to keep everybody on track and consistent. So we try to have any door open that they need to. They can talk to anyone, and they'll send them to any of us.
I thought so, but I want to make sure people heard that and know that.
I'm trying to understand the prevalence of this. You indicated early on that 20% of the respondents is in keeping with the national average.
Roughly, depending on the question, how they frame it.
So what I wanted to ask the question about is the pool that's drawn from. In our school, it was a voluntary program, and roughly half of the respondents. So on the national level, is that the same sort of pool? Is it a voluntary thing with half the people responding, or do you know?
It's different. So there's different, like SAMHSA or some of the different organizations, they'll have their own. I don't know the specific criteria on how they do it. And ours, you know, we're not doing a research project.
No, I understand. I just wanted to know if it's fair to compare 20% on our response with the national average if they're collected in different ways.
No, but there's different surveys. It's really just hard to, we wouldn't be a direct comparison ever, no, but just the numbers that we saw, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't particularly surprising. I wanted to preface it just by saying the national average is these numbers.
Yeah.
We got this because a lot of people, when they hear this for the first time, they're blown away that it's 1 in 5, you know, kids that have expressed some suicidal thought. And, so yeah, that's the only reason I brought that up.
And this survey was taken between the high school students? What grade level are we talking about?
9th through 12th.
12.
Yep.
Any other questions for Glenn?
Can't appreciate you enough.
Thanks, Glenn.
Sure.
Had a bus inspection?
Absolutely, and we talked about this at the
Stickler for perfection.